I'm staring at my computer screen right now, 3 years later, and my hands are still shaking. Not from fear this time, from rage. From the kind of anger that burns so deep it becomes something else entirely. A cold, calculated fury that money can't buy and success can't cure. My name is Chen, and I used to believe that being worth $47 million meant I was untouchable. I was about to learn that some truths don't give a damn about your bank account. The woman sleeping upstairs in our penthouse, the one who still doesn't know I know, isn't just the love of my life, she's my half-sister. And in exactly 6 hours, I'm going to have to look her in the eyes and decide whether to destroy both our worlds with the truth. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. February 14th, 2022. Valentine's Day. Ironic, isn't it? Sarah had surprised me with breakfast in bed, those blueberry pancakes that made me fall harder for her every time she made them. The same recipe her adoptive mother taught her before she died. She was laughing, flowers still dusting her dark hair, holding up 2 DNA ancestry kits like they were concert tickets. "Come on, babe," she'd said, that smile that could light up Manhattan spreading across her face. "Let's see if we're descended from royalty or serial killers." If I could go back to that moment, I'd throw those goddamn kits out the window. But I can't, because 3 weeks later, I was sitting in our marble kitchen watching snow fall past floor-to-ceiling windows that cost more than most people's houses when I opened my laptop and saw the results. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Had to be. The genetic matching system was showing Sarah's name under close family. Not spouse, family. I clicked refresh 17 times. 17. I counted. The science was brutal in its certainty. We share 23% of our DNA, enough to be half-siblings, enough to make every kiss we'd ever shared, every night we'd spent tangled in Egyptian cotton sheets, every whispered, "I love you," a lie written in our very cells. Sarah Chen, the woman who took my name, who built our tech empire alongside me, who knew exactly how I liked my coffee and which nightmare would wake me up screaming, wasn't supposed to exist in my world. Not as my wife, not as the other half of my soul. She was my sister, my baby sister, lost to the foster system when she was 3 and I was 8. The little girl with dark eyes who used to fall asleep holding my hand, who I promised I'd find someday before they ripped us apart and sent us to different families in different states. I kept that promise all right. I just fell in love with her instead of recognizing her. That morning, I watched my entire identity collapse in real time. Every success felt dirty. Every dollar in my account became blood money earned alongside the woman I should have been protecting, not possessing. The American dream I'd built wasn't just a lie, it was an abomination. And the worst part, the part that's been eating me alive for 3 years, she still doesn't know. Because the DNA results that destroyed my world never made it to her email. I deleted her account before she could see them. I've been carrying this secret like a cancer, watching her love me with the same pure joy she did before I knew the truth. Tonight, that ends, because I can't live in this beautiful, poisonous lie anymore. This is the story of what happens when love becomes the enemy, when success turns to ash, and when the only person who can save you is the one person you can never have. It's about the choice I'm about to make that will either set us both free or destroy us forever. If you've ever loved someone you shouldn't, if you've ever had to choose between happiness and truth, then you'll understand why I'm about to walk upstairs and break both our hearts. Hit that like button if you're ready to witness what happens when a perfect life becomes a perfect hell. Comment below if you've ever carried a secret that could destroy everything, and subscribe because this testimony isn't just my story, it's a warning about the prices we pay for the things we think we want most. In 6 hours, I'm going to wake up the woman I love and tell her she's my sister. The money can't save us now, but maybe sharing what comes next can save someone else from loving the wrong person for all the right reasons. I've been awake for 72 hours straight, and the caffeine stopped working somewhere around hour 48. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looks like a stranger. Hollow eyes, stubble that's crossed the line from rugged to homeless, and hands that won't stop trembling, no matter how many times I clench them into fists. Sarah's still sleeping. Of course she is. She has no idea that her entire world is about to implode, so why wouldn't she sleep like an angel? That's what I used to call her, my angel. Now the word tastes like poison in my mouth. The DNA results are still open on my laptop downstairs. I've memorized every number, every percentage, every devastating detail. 23% shared DNA. Half siblings. The words blur together after staring at them for 3 days, but the truth remains crystal clear. I've been sleeping with my sister for 5 years. I want to vomit, but my stomach is empty. I want to scream, but the penthouse walls are too thin and she might wake up. I want to disappear, but there's nowhere to run from what's written in our very cells. The worst part isn't even the biological reality. It's the memories flooding back. The way she holds her coffee mug with both hands, exactly like someone else used to. The scar on her left knee that I had traced 1,000 times without questioning why it looked so familiar. Those dark eyes that always felt like coming home because they were the same eyes that used to watch me leave for school 30 years ago. How did I not see it? How did I fall in love with the one person in the world I was supposed to protect, not possess? My phone buzzes on the nightstand, a text from my lawyer about the quarterly board meeting next week. He has no idea his client is about to confess to the most twisted love story in corporate America. Sarah Chen Technologies, the empire we built together, is going to become a punchline, the cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms about what happens when due diligence doesn't extend to your own DNA. I walk to the window overlooking Central Park. Dawn is breaking over the city, painting everything in shades of gold that mock the darkness consuming me from the inside. Somewhere out there, normal people are waking up to normal problems. Traffic jams and deadlines and mortgages, problems that don't require choosing between love and sanity. 6 hours. That's what I told myself yesterday, but the deadline keeps moving. How do you destroy someone you love? How do you look into eyes that trust you completely and deliver the truth that will shatter everything they believe about themselves? I press my forehead against the cold glass and close my eyes. In 6 hours, I'm going to walk upstairs and end the only real happiness I've ever known. The foster system has a way of erasing children. Not literally. We're still breathing, still walking around with beating hearts. But our identities get shuffled and reshuffled until we forget who we were before the system swallowed us whole. I was 8 when they took Sarah away. She was 3, small enough to fit in the social worker's arms like a broken doll. I remember that day with perfect clarity now, though I'd buried it for decades. Our mother had overdosed in the bathroom while we watched cartoons. Sarah kept asking why Mommy wouldn't wake up, her tiny hand shaking our mother's cold shoulder. I called 911 like they taught us in school, but it was too late for our mother and too late for us. They separated us at the police station. Different families will be better, they said. Fresh starts for both of you. Fresh starts. As if trauma could be washed away with new bed sheets and different last names. I went to the Chens in California. Good people who tried their best but never quite knew what to do with an angry 8-year-old who'd seen too much. Sarah went to the Hendersons in Texas, then the Morales family in Arizona when that placement failed, then the Johnsons in Colorado. I know this now because I hired a private investigator 3 years ago, desperate to understand how we found each other without knowing we were looking. The PI's report reads like a tragedy written by someone with no imagination for happy endings. Sarah bounced through 6 different homes before aging out of the system at 18. Each family gave up on her for different reasons: too withdrawn, too angry, too damaged. She learned to survive by becoming whoever they wanted her to be, a skill that served her well in business but left scars I mistook for mysterious depth. I became obsessed with success, pouring my rage into building something unshakable. Every dollar I earned was proof that I'd survived, that I wasn't the broken kid they'd written off. But success is lonely. And when Sarah walked into my tech conference 5 years ago, something in my chest unlocked for the first time since childhood. She was giving a presentation on user experience design, speaking with quiet confidence that reminded me of someone I couldn't quite place. When she mentioned being adopted, growing up in Texas, losing her birth family young, I should have connected the dots. But trauma has a way of protecting us from truths we're not ready to handle. After her presentation, I approached her at the hotel bar. "You remind me of someone," I said, and she laughed. "Someone good, I hope." If only she knew, she reminded me of the little girl whose hand I used to hold while walking to school, who would curl up next to me during thunderstorms, who cried when I had to leave her behind. We talked until sunrise that first night, about growing up different, about building walls that keep people out, about the peculiar loneliness of having money but no family to share it with. She understood me in ways that felt supernatural, and I fell in love with her mind before I ever touched her skin.
Now I know why she understood me so completely. We're cut from the same damaged cloth, survivors of the same original tragedy. The system that was supposed to protect us served us up to each other on a silver platter, and we devoured what we found like starving animals who didn't know they were committing cannibalism. The cruelest irony is that finding each other saved us both. For the first time in our lives, we weren't alone. We built something beautiful from our shared brokenness, not knowing our love was also our damnation. Marriage, they say, is about building something together. Sarah and I built an empire. Chen Technology started as a weekend project in my cramped San Francisco apartment, just 2 damaged souls who understood code better than human connection, creating software that made other people's lives easier while our own remained beautifully complicated. She moved in after 3 months of dating, bringing nothing but 2 suitcases and a fierce determination to prove she belonged somewhere. I gave her half my company after 6 months, not because I was generous, but because watching her work was like watching someone finally come alive. Her mind was sharp enough to cut glass, and she could spot user experience flaws I'd never see. Our first breakthrough came 18 months later, a project management platform that revolutionized how remote teams collaborated. The timing was perfect. COVID hit just as we were launching, and suddenly every company in America needed our solution. We went from struggling startup to $47 million valuation in 8 months. Success suited us. We moved to Manhattan, bought the penthouse, hired assistants who handled everything from dry cleaning to dinner reservations. Sarah bloomed in ways I'd never imagined possible. The frightened girl from foster care transformed into a confident woman who commanded boardrooms and closed deals with handshakes that could seal a man's fate. It was the private moments that convinced me we were invincible. The way she'd curl against me while reviewing quarterly reports, her hair smelling like that vanilla shampoo she special ordered from some boutique in Paris. How she'd make those blueberry pancakes every Sunday morning, insisting they tasted better than anything money could buy. The sound of her laugh echoing through our marble bathroom when I'd join her in the shower, stealing kisses between discussing acquisition strategies. We were partners in everything: business, pleasure, ambition. She knew exactly how much cream I liked in my coffee and which nightmare would wake me up screaming about foster homes and social workers. I knew she preferred her left shoulder massaged after long flights, and that she couldn't sleep without background noise because silence reminded her of empty houses and families that gave up on her. People called us a power couple, and we wore the label like armor. Forbes featured us on their cover, the tech titans who found love in code. The article described our magnetic chemistry and uncanny ability to finish each other's sentences. If only they knew the chemistry was genetic and the sentence finishing came from sharing the same broken childhood.
Our wedding was small but perfect. Just us and a justice of the peace in Central Park, with Sarah wearing a simple white dress that made her look like the angel I'd always believed her to be. She cried when she said her vows, promising to build something lasting with me, to never leave me the way everyone else had. I meant every word when I promised to protect her, to love her completely, to give her the family she'd never had. I kept those promises, didn't I? I loved her completely, too completely it turns out. I protected her from a truth that would destroy her. And I gave her family all right. I gave her the brother she'd lost, disguised as a husband who worshipped the ground she walked on. The sickest part is how perfect we were together, how right it all felt. 5 years of marriage without a single day I didn't wake up grateful she was mine. 5 years of building something that felt permanent and pure and powerful enough to survive anything. Except this. Have you ever loved someone so completely that you'd rather live a lie than lose them? DNA doesn't lie. People lie. Memories lie. Even love lies. But science? Science is brutally honest about things we'd rather not know. The genetic counselor I secretly consulted after seeing our results explained it with the cold precision of someone who's delivered this kind of devastating news before. 23% shared DNA indicates a half-sibling relationship with 99.9% certainty, she said. It means you share one biological parent. Given the age difference and your documented histories, most likely the same father. The same father. Some stranger who donated his DNA to create both his daughter and the son who would unknowingly fall in love with her 3 decades later. The statistical impossibility of it should have been comforting. How could something so unlikely be real? But numbers don't care about our comfort. I'd paid the counselor $5,000 for her discretion and expertise, meeting her in a generic office building in Queens where no one would recognize me. She showed me charts and graphs that mapped our genetic connection with scientific precision, each percentage point another nail in the coffin of my marriage. The physical attraction you described is actually common in genetic sexual attraction cases, she explained. When siblings separated early in life meet as adults, their genetic similarity can manifest as intense romantic chemistry. It's evolutionary biology gone wrong. Your body's recognizing genetic compatibility without your mind's understanding the true relationship. Genetic sexual attraction. There's a clinical term for what I thought was destiny. What I believed was the deepest love imaginable was actually biology playing a sick joke on 2 damaged kids who never had a chance to develop normal sibling bonds. The counselor gave me pamphlets about GSA support groups, as if sitting in a circle sharing stories about accidentally falling in love with relatives would somehow make this bearable. She recommended therapy, both individual and couples counseling, though she cautioned that most relationships don't survive this kind of revelation. The shame and trauma typically become insurmountable, she said. Even when both parties are victims of circumstance, the psychological impact is devastating. Some couples attempt to transition to a platonic relationship, but the success rate is less than 5%. 5%. Those odds would be laughable if they weren't describing the probability of salvaging the only meaningful relationship of my life. We'd built a tech empire on worse odds, but business and blood are different games entirely. I walked out of that office building with scientific confirmation of what I already knew, and no clearer idea of what to do with the information. The pamphlets went in the first trash can I passed, but the genetic counselor's words followed me home like a curse I couldn't shake. That night, I watched Sarah cooking dinner in our kitchen, humming some song I didn't recognize while she stirred pasta sauce.
The same hands that coded our breakthrough algorithm were tossing salad, wedding ring catching the light from our ridiculously expensive chandelier. She looked so normal, so unaware that she was married to her half-brother, that for a moment I almost convinced myself the science was wrong. But science doesn't care about our desperate rationalizations any more than it cares about our comfort. The truth was written in our cells long before we wrote our first line of code together, and no amount of money or success could rewrite that fundamental equation. I excused myself and locked our bedroom door, then spent 20 minutes dry heaving into our marble toilet while Sarah finished making dinner for her husband and brother, the same person, trapped in one body, that couldn't reconcile loving her with knowing what that love really was. Living with a secret this massive is like carrying a bomb in your chest that could detonate at any moment. Every morning for 3 years, I've woken up next to the woman I love and the sister I never knew I had, and every morning the weight of knowing threatens to crush what's left of my sanity. I've become a master at compartmentalizing. During board meetings, I'm Marcus Chen, tech mogul, the man who built an empire from nothing. When we're reviewing quarterly reports together, I focus on profit margins and market projections, not the way her fingers move across the keyboard with the same nervous energy I remember from childhood. At industry events, I play the devoted husband, my hand on her lower back as we work the room, collecting contacts and investment opportunities. But alone, I'm drowning. I started seeing a therapist 6 months after learning the truth. Dr. Reynolds specializes in trauma and family dysfunction, though I've never been able to tell him the whole story. Instead, I talk around the edges of my pain, about growing up in foster care, about the fear of losing what matters most, about guilt that feels heavy enough to stop my heart. "You seem to be punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault," he observed during our last session. Childhood trauma survivors often carry misplaced shame about circumstances beyond their control. If only he knew how accurate and inadequate that assessment really was. The guilt manifests in physical ways now. I've lost 23 pounds in the past year, despite Sarah's increasingly worried attempts to get me to eat. My hair is going gray at 35, silver threads that seem to appear overnight like evidence of crimes I can't confess. Sleep became impossible without prescription help, and even medicated dreams are haunted by images of social workers and DNA results and Sarah's face when she finally learns the truth. I've started making preparations, though I'm not sure for what exactly. Legal documents ensuring Sarah gets everything if something happens to me, passwords and account information locked in a safety deposit box she doesn't know about, financial arrangements that would let her run the company alone if necessary, as if money could somehow cushion the blow of losing her identity along with her marriage. The closest I've come to telling her was last Christmas. We were lying in bed after spending the day at a children's charity event, something about giving back to kids in foster care, the irony so thick I could barely breathe. She was tracing patterns on my chest, talking about maybe starting a family of our own someday. "I want our kids to have what we never had," she whispered. "Stability, safety, parents who choose them every single day." I had to excuse myself to vomit in our bathroom, while she assumed I was just tired from the event. Our kids. Children who would carry genetic markers of our unknowing incest. Innocent victims of a love story that should never have been written. The thought of passing this corruption to another generation made me realize I could never let that happen. That's when I started planning this confession. Not tomorrow or next week or when I find the courage. Tonight. Because every day I wait is another day I let her live in a lie. Another day I risk her discovering the truth in some even more devastating way. The hardest part isn't even telling her. It's knowing that when I do, I lose the only person who's ever made me feel whole. Sarah doesn't just love me, she needs me the way I need her, with a desperate intensity that makes perfect sense now, but felt like magic before I understood the science behind it. In destroying her world, I'm destroying mine. But keeping this secret is killing us both slowly, turning our love into something poisonous and twisted. At least the truth offers the possibility of freedom, even if that freedom means losing everything we've built together.
How far would you go to protect someone you love from a truth that would destroy them, even if that protection was slowly destroying you both? I can't do this anymore. The phrase repeats in my mind like a mantra as I sit in our home office at 3 a.m., surrounded by the evidence of our shared success. Awards line the walls. Tech Innovators of the Year, Entrepreneur Power Couple, Fortune's 40 Under 40. Each accolade now feels like a monument to our unknowing deception, celebrating a love built on impossible lies. The breaking point came during yesterday's investor meeting. Sarah was presenting our 5-year expansion plan, her confidence filling the boardroom as she outlined projections that would triple our valuation. I watched her command respect from men who dismissed smarter women before her, and my chest swelled with pride so fierce it almost stopped my breath. Then she looked at me and smiled. That private smile meant only for me, and I saw the little girl who used to hold my hand crossing busy streets, who would crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who cried when the social workers said we couldn't stay together. The same smile, carried through decades and foster homes and a system designed to erase children like us. I excused myself and spent 15 minutes locked in the executive bathroom, hyperventilating into paper towels that cost more per sheet than most people spend on lunch. When I returned, the investors were shaking hands with my sister wife, congratulating us on our incredible partnership and obvious chemistry. That's when I knew. Not tomorrow, not next week when I find courage I don't possess. Tonight. Because if I don't tell her now, this secret will kill what's left of my humanity, and she deserves better than sharing her life with a ghost haunted by genetic truth. I've written 17 different versions of how this conversation might go. None of them end with both of us intact. In the best case scenarios, she hates me but understands I'm as much a victim as she is. In the worst, she blames me for seducing my own sister, for building our empire on a foundation of biological impossibility, for stealing 5 years of her life with love that was never supposed to exist. The company will survive this scandal, probably. We've built something bigger than us now, with enough talented employees and solid infrastructure to weather the storm of our collapse. But Sarah Chen Technologies will become a cautionary tale, a business school case study about what happens when personal disasters destroy professional empires. I've been rehearsing the words for hours. Sarah, there's something about us that you need to know. Something I discovered 3 years ago that changes everything. But how do you bridge that gap between revelation and devastation? How do you tell someone their entire identity is built on a mistake? The DNA results are printed and waiting in our bedroom safe, along with the genetic counselor's report and the private investigator's documentation of our shared childhood. Evidence that will transform us from power couple to tragedy, from success story to cautionary tale about the dangers of a broken system that doesn't track the children it's supposed to protect. I keep thinking about that last normal moment we shared. This morning's coffee in bed, Sarah reading industry news while I pretended to review quarterly reports. Her hair was still messy from sleep, and she had that soft look she gets when she first wakes up, before the day hardens her into the businesswoman who terrifies our competitors.
"What are you staring at?" she'd asked, and I told her she was beautiful. True, but incomplete. I was also memorizing her face before I destroyed everything she believed about herself, cataloging details I might never see again. The small scar near her left eyebrow from a childhood accident I probably witnessed, the way she chews her bottom lip when she's thinking, the trust in her eyes when she looks at me. In 2 hours, that trust dies. In 2 hours, I transform from the man who saved her into the man who ruins her, from the husband who worships her into the brother who violated every law of nature by falling in love with his own blood. But I can't live in this beautiful lie anymore, and she deserves the chance to decide what kind of life she wants to build from the ashes of our impossible love. Sarah, her name comes out as a whisper, barely audible over the sound of our coffee machine humming to life in the kitchen below. She's still half asleep, curled under Egyptian cotton sheets that cost more than most people's cars, dark hair spread across her pillow like spilled ink.
beautiful and trusting and completely unaware that her husband is about to tear apart everything she believes about herself. She reaches for me without opening her eyes, that automatic gesture of intimacy we've perfected over 5 years of marriage. Her hand finds my chest, and for a moment I almost lose my nerve. This is the woman who saved me from a lifetime of loneliness, who built an empire alongside me, who loves me with the fierce devotion of someone who understands what it means to be abandoned. We need to talk. The words feel like broken glass in my throat. About us. About who we really are. Now her eyes open, immediately alert. Sarah has always been able to read danger in my voice, a skill learned from childhood trauma that served her well in boardrooms but feels heartbreaking in our bedroom. She sits up, pulling the sheet around herself like armor, and I can see her mentally preparing for whatever blow I'm about to deliver. "You're scaring me, Marcus. What's wrong?" I reach for the manila folder on my nightstand. DNA results, genetic counselor reports, the private investigator's documentation of our shared childhood. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely hold the paper steady. 3 years ago, you bought us those ancestry DNA kits, remember? For Valentine's Day? Of course I remember. Her voice is cautious now, like someone navigating a minefield. You said we should see if we're descended from royalty or serial killers. The irony of that memory cuts deeper than any knife. The results came back, but I saw yours before you could, and I deleted your account. I've been carrying this secret for 3 years because I didn't know how to tell you the truth without destroying both our lives. I hand her the folder with hands that feel like they belong to someone else. Sarah, we share 23% of our DNA. According to genetic science, that makes us half-siblings. We have the same biological father. The silence that follows is so complete it feels like the world has stopped breathing. Sarah stares at the papers, her face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and dawning horror. I watch my wife transform into a stranger as the implications sink in, as 5 years of marriage reconfigure themselves into something unspeakable. No. The word is barely audible. No, this is wrong. These results are wrong. People make mistakes. Labs make mistakes. I had them verified, multiple times. I consulted with genetic counselors. Sarah, I'm so sorry, but the science is conclusive. We're half-siblings, separated in foster care when you were 3 and I was 8. The same system that was supposed to protect us served us up to each other 30 years later. She's looking at me like I'm a monster now, like the man she shared a bed with for 5 years has suddenly revealed himself to be something inhuman. You knew? For 3 years you knew, and you didn't tell me? I was trying to protect you. Protect me? Her voice rises to a scream that probably carries through our expensive soundproofing. You let me live a lie. You let me think I was married to the love of my life when I was actually... She can't finish the sentence. The word brother hangs in the air between us like a curse neither of us can speak. She bolts from a bed, stumbling toward our bathroom, and I hear her retching, the same sound I've been making for 3 years every time the reality of our situation overwhelms me. When she emerges, her face is pale and her eyes are wild with a kind of panic I recognize from our worst childhood memories. Every time She presses her hands to her mouth, unable to finish. Oh God, Marcus, we're siblings. We've been, for 5 years, I know. My voice breaks completely. I know, and I'm sorry, and I hate myself more than you could ever hate me. But Sarah, we're both victims here. We were children when they separated us. We had no way of knowing. Don't. She holds up a hand that's shaking as badly as mine. Don't you dare try to make this okay. Don't you dare try to rationalize what we've done. The woman I love is disintegrating in front of me, and I'm powerless to stop it. Sarah hasn't spoken to me in 6 hours. She's locked herself in our guest bedroom while I pace the living room like a caged animal, surrounded by evidence of the life we built together. Photographs from our wedding, awards from our business success, books we read to each other on lazy Sunday mornings. Every object in this penthouse now feels like evidence of a crime we didn't know we were committing. I can hear her crying through the door. Not the gentle tears of sadness, but the harsh, broken sobs of someone whose entire identity has been shattered. Each sound cuts through me like a blade, because I know I'm the cause of every tear. I'm the one who delivered the truth that transformed her from a confident businesswoman into traumatized victim. Around noon, she emerges long enough to demand I tell her everything. She wants details about the genetic counselor, the private investigator's report, every moment of the 3 years I spent keeping the secret. Her face is ravaged from crying, but her voice carries the cold fury of someone who's been betrayed by the person they trusted most. "You let me plan our 5-year anniversary celebration," she says, her words sharp enough to draw blood. "You let me talk about having children. You listened to me say I wanted to give our kids the family we never had, and you knew what that would mean." The children conversation destroys what's left of my composure. The thought of passing our unknowing corruption to innocent victims makes me sick in ways I can't articulate. "Sarah, I would never have let that happen. I was going to tell you before what? Before we accidentally created more victims of this sick situation?" She laughs, but it's the sound of someone losing their mind. "My God, Marcus, we could have had children, brothers and sisters who were also cousins? Do you understand how completely fucked up this is?" "Yes, I understand perfectly, which is why I haven't slept in 3 years." She wants to know about our childhood, about the memories I've pieced together since learning the truth. I tell her about holding her hand while walking to school, about how she used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, about the promise I made to find her someday before the social workers tore us apart. "I kept that promise," I whisper. "I just fell in love with you instead of recognizing you. Stop calling it love." Her voice is ice cold now. What we had wasn't love. It was genetic sexual attraction. It was biology tricking us into something unnatural and wrong. But even as she says it, I can see the confusion in her eyes. Because whatever clinical turn we assigned to our connection, it felt real. It felt like the deepest love either of us had ever experienced. The tragedy isn't that we didn't love each other. It's that we loved each other too much, in the wrong way, for all the right reasons. By evening, she's moved beyond crying into practical planning. She wants to know about the company, about our shared assets, about how we untangle 5 years of marriage and business partnership. The woman who built a tech empire alongside me is now treating our relationship like a corporate dissolution, complete with asset division and non-disclosure considerations. "We'll need separate legal representation," she says, "and we'll need to figure out how to handle the business without destroying what our employees have built."
I want to tell her we don't have to destroy everything, that maybe we can find a way to transition into some kind of platonic relationship. But I know better. The genetic counselor was right. The shame and trauma are already insurmountable. What we had is dead, killed by truth that should have set us free, but instead became our executioner. The saddest part is watching her try to preserve what she can of our shared creation while rejecting everything personal between us. Sarah Chen Technologies was born from our love, but now she's determined to save the business by excising every trace of the emotion that created it. "I need you to leave," she says finally, just as the sun is setting over Central Park. "Tonight, I can't be in the same space as you right now." So I pack a suitcase with hands that feel disconnected from my body, gathering clothes and toiletries for a hotel stay that might become permanent. The penthouse we bought together becomes hers by default because I'm the one who knew the truth and chose to keep it hidden. At the door, I turn back to say something, an apology, a promise, a desperate plea for forgiveness I don't deserve. But Sarah is standing with her back to me, staring out at the city lights, and her posture makes it clear that whatever we were to each other is over. I destroyed us both to save us both, and I'm not sure either of us will survive the aftermath. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a studio apartment in Brooklyn that costs more per month than most people make in a year, but feels emptier than any foster home I ever lived in. The space is deliberately anonymous. White walls, generic furniture, nothing that carries memories of the life I destroyed.
Through my window, I can see Manhattan's skyline, including the building where Sarah still lives in our penthouse, though our lawyers have informed me it's legally hers now. The divorce was finalized last week. Irreconcilable differences, the paper said, which might be the understatement of the century. I signed over everything. The penthouse, my shares in the company, even the cars and artwork we'd collected together. Blood money, I called it in my head, though my lawyer warned me against such emotional language during proceedings. Sarah Chen Technologies is thriving without me. She rebranded it as Hendrix Innovations, using her first adoptive family's name, and hired a new CTO to replace my technical expertise. From what I read in industry publications, she's turned our shared creation into something bigger and more successful than we ever imagined together. Success, apparently, doesn't require love. Or maybe it just requires the kind of desperate motivation that comes from rebuilding your entire identity from scratch. I haven't seen her since the day I left our penthouse. All communication goes through lawyers now, sterile emails about asset division and legal technicalities. Sometimes I write her letters I never send, apologies that feel inadequate, explanations that sound like excuses, desperate pleas for forgiveness I know I don't deserve. They pile up in a drawer next to my bed, evidence of conversations we'll never have. Therapy helps, somewhat. Dr. Reynolds knows the truth now, all of it. The expression on his face when I finally told him the complete story will haunt me forever. Professional compassion mixed with horror, like a doctor delivering a terminal diagnosis. We spend our sessions working through guilt and shame that feels bottomless, examining how childhood trauma led to adult catastrophe.
You were both victims, he reminds me weakly. The system failed you twice. Once when it separated you as children, and again when it didn't track your whereabouts well enough to prevent this tragedy. Intellectually, I understand he's right. Emotionally, I feel like a monster who seduced his own sister, and then compounded the crime by keeping it secret for 3 years. Some violations feel unforgivable, even when they're committed unknowingly. I've started volunteering at a foster care nonprofit, using my technical skills to improve their database systems. Maybe if other siblings can be tracked better, prevented from finding each other in ways that destroy lives, this nightmare will have some meaning. The work is meaningful but heartbreaking. Every file I update represents a child torn from their family, scattered by a system that prioritizes placement over connection. The hardest part isn't the loneliness or the guilt or even the loss of everything I'd built. It's the memories that refuse to be recontextualized. 5 years of marriage that felt like the deepest love imaginable, now revealed as the most tragic mistake 2 people could make. Every kiss, every intimate moment, every whispered declaration of devotion, all of it tainted by genetic truth that transforms love into abomination. But I can't bring myself to regret loving her. Even knowing what I know now, even understanding the biological basis for our connection, Sarah saved me from a lifetime of isolation. For 5 years, I wasn't the damaged foster kid who never learned to trust. I was a man worthy of love, capable of building something beautiful with another broken soul. The cruelest irony is that she probably saved me from myself in ways I'm still discovering. Before Sarah, I was successful but empty, rich but emotionally bankrupt. She taught me what it meant to be part of something bigger than my own pain. She showed me that 2 people could build something lasting from their shared damage. Now I understand why she could do that for me. We were literally made from the same template, shaped by identical trauma, driven by genetic similarity that made us perfect partners in everything except biology. Our love wasn't destiny, it was DNA expressing itself in the worst possible way. Last week, I saw her picture in Forbes again. Tech Executive of the Year, the headline read, featuring a photo of Sarah accepting some industry award. She looked older, harder, but successful in ways that would have made me burst with pride in our previous life. Instead, I felt the familiar mixture of love and loss and guilt that defines my existence now. She's building a new life from the ashes of our impossible love, and she's doing it without me, which is exactly what she should do, what she deserves to do. I destroyed her world to save it,
And now she's proving that Sarah Chen, or Sarah Hendricks as she calls herself now, is strong enough to survive anything, even the truth that shattered everything she believed about herself. I just hope someday she can forgive me for loving her the wrong way for all the right reasons. 2 years have passed since the morning I destroyed our perfect life with scientific truth, and I'm finally ready to tell this story. Not because I've found peace. I'm not sure peace is possible after learning you've spent 5 years unknowingly married to your half-sister, but because silence has become more toxic than confession.
I'm recording this testimony in the same Brooklyn apartment where I've been rebuilding something resembling a life. The foster care nonprofit where I volunteer has grown into my full-time focus, and we've successfully implemented tracking systems that have already prevented 3 potential sibling reunification disasters. Small victories in a war against systemic failure, but victories nonetheless. Sarah and I spoke for the first time last month. Not by choice. We were both attending a tech industry memorial service for a mutual colleague, and avoiding each other would have been more conspicuous than brief, polite conversation. She looked incredible, successful and confident in ways that made my chest ache with pride and loss in equal measure. "You look well," she said, and I could hear years of therapy in those 3 words. Professional compassion wrapped around personal boundaries thick as steel. "So do you. Hendricks Innovations is doing amazing things." "Thank you." A pause that contained everything we couldn't say. "I heard about your work with foster care reform. It's important work." Important work. As if preventing other siblings from accidentally destroying each other could somehow balance the scales of what we'd done. But maybe that's enough. Maybe redemption comes through making sure our particular brand of tragedy doesn't repeat itself. The hardest truth I've learned is that love doesn't disappear just because it's wrong. I still love Sarah with the fierce devotion of someone who found their missing piece, even knowing that missing piece was never meant to fit the way we made it fit. That love has been recontextualized, redefined, transformed from romantic obsession into something else, protective care maybe, or the deep affection of someone who understands your damage because they share your genetic blueprint for survival. I've dated other women since our divorce, relationships that felt hollow because they lacked the supernatural understanding Sarah and I shared. Now I know why nothing else compared. We were biologically programmed to be compatible in ways that transcended normal human connection. Genetic sexual attraction masquerading as destiny. Evolution playing its cruelest joke on 2 children who never had a chance to develop normal sibling bonds. But understanding the science doesn't diminish the reality of what we built together. 5 years of marriage, a tech empire, a partnership that transformed 2 damaged foster kids into successful adults. That wasn't fake, even if it was founded on impossible biology. We saved each other in ways that mattered, even if we couldn't stay saved. The money means nothing now. I've donated most of it to foster care reform organizations, keeping enough to live simply while focusing on work that might prevent future tragedies. Material success feels meaningless when you understand how quickly perfect lives can collapse under the weight of genetic truth. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never bought those DNA kits, if we'd lived our entire lives without knowing. Would ignorance have been kinder than truth? Would we have grown old together, successful and happy, and unknowingly violating every law of nature? The question tortures me because I'm not sure the answer isn't yes. But secrets that big have their own weight. They corrupt everything they touch, turning love into lies and intimacy into deception. Living with that knowledge was killing me slowly, and eventually it would have killed us both. The truth was brutal, but it was also liberating. The end of a beautiful lie and the beginning of something more honest, even if that honesty came at the cost of everything we'd built together. I still dream about Sarah sometimes. Not romantic dreams. Those stopped when I understood what our love really was. But dreams where we're children again, holding hands while crossing busy streets, promising each other we'll never be separated. In those dreams, we find each other the way we were supposed to, as brother and sister, protectors and best friends,
family in the way biology intended rather than the way trauma twisted us. Maybe that's the saddest part of this whole story. We were meant to be in each other's lives. We were supposed to find each other again, to heal the wounds inflicted by a system that tore apart what should have stayed connected. But we found each other wrong, loved each other wrong, built something beautiful on a foundation that should never have existed. The truth set us free, but freedom came at the cost of everything we thought we wanted. Sometimes the price of honesty is losing the lie you needed to survive. Sometimes loving someone means destroying what you have with them to save what's left of who they really are. If you're watching this testimony, if you've stayed with me through this impossible story, I hope you understand that some secrets are too heavy to carry alone. Some truths are more important than the happiness they destroy. Some love is strong enough to survive even being revealed as the wrong kind of love entirely. We were victims of circumstance, of a broken system, of biology that didn't care about our hearts when it was programming our chemistry. But we were also survivors who found each other against impossible odds and built something that mattered, even if it couldn't last. That has to count for something, even if it's not enough. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever faced an impossible choice between love and truth, please share it. Like this video if you believe some secrets are worth telling, even when they destroy everything you think you want. Subscribe if you understand that healing sometimes requires breaking what's already broken. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone go. And if you're out there carrying a secret that's poisoning your life, find the courage to tell someone who can help. Don't carry it alone the way I did. Don't let it corrupt the good things you've built the way I almost did. The truth will set you free. But first, it will probably destroy everything you thought you knew about yourself. Sometimes, that's exactly what freedom costs.